In the following video, I'm going to describe some red flags of narcissistic relationships, most of which I'm sure you're very familiar with by now, but some that may be new to you, or perhaps you haven't heard them in the context that I present them in. After you endure endless crazy making and you behave more like a detective or a psychologist rather than a spouse or a partner or a child or someone's sibling, you begin to recognize that the person in question fits a lot of the criteria for being on the spectrum of narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not sure at what stage of the awakening process you are or how new this subject is to you. So in the beginning of the video, I've included the really basic red flags. However, towards the end of the video, I've added a few more deeper insights of this psychopathology for those who are well versed on this topic. So here are some red flags of a narcissist in your life. They are the authority on everything. They want to be godlike in your life, make all the rules, decisions, and control and micromanage your life. It's all based around control. What they want is the only thing that matters. All their relationships are shallow and superficial, and they have trouble maintaining any long-term relationship because people who don't feel obligated will find them annoying and will naturally abandon them. There are many red flags that we usually recognize instantly, but we end up in denial about. For example, regarding dating a narcissistically personality disordered person. Most people will distinctly remember that their life took a turn for the worse shortly after they met them. It takes a while to recognize how destructive just one narcissist can be. They are master manipulators and ultimate chameleons. So the more red flags that you identify sooner, the faster you can protect and distance yourself. The most apparent red flag that we are often shocked by is a general lack of empathy. They struggle with things that actually come naturally to humans: affection, compliments, sincerity, a genuine interest in the person they love. To narcissists, all of these natural responses are really difficult. For example, a simple compliment is peppered with hostility, a tinge of envy, and it kind of feels like an insult. So a simple, genuine, heartfelt recognition of someone else's goodness is twisted and distorted. Emotional abandonment is a huge red flag. I mean, we all switch off or even emotionally withdraw to process certain things. But narcissists do it intentionally, and that is so they can slowly deteriorate our self-confidence. The purpose of their repeated emotional abandonment, not to mention their passive-aggressive behavior, is to make us feel uncertain, unsafe, and insecure in the relationship. And this causes us to wonder whether we're being too sensitive. We're constantly wondering why we feel so insecure. What's wrong with us that we need so much reassurance? And these are the covert methods of maintaining their dominance in relationships. These psychological games eventually destroy any sense of intimacy, and that's why you can never feel close to them. This is done on purpose because it's all about control. Another red flag is that narcissists can only fake being normal for a limited amount of time. Being genuine or caring is something they can only fake and mimic. They can't uphold this permanently. Once they've put on their show to impress someone with their niceness, then they quickly return to their usual way of behaving. Red flags that someone is on the NPD spectrum is when the whole relationship is based on uncertainty, mistrust, and confusion. And I mean the entire time. If you're questioning their intentions and motives, your mind can never rest. Whether it's your girlfriend, father, mother, husband, whatever the role is, you never feel secure in the relationship. You find that convincing yourself and making excuses for them becomes a repetitive aspect, which of course they want you to assume is normal. And that's a part of their crazy making. Their abrasive behaviour and comments usually get worse with time. It's a pathological condition whose detrimental effects are usually felt on those closest to them. The ones they deceive actually believe that they are really nice people. I think the most difficult red flags for us to recognise is the behaviour of the narcissists who disguise themselves as traditionally loving, caretaking roles of mother and father, because the guilt they indoctrinated us with ensures that we never see them for what they are. They depend on us remaining ashamed of calling them out on their toxic behaviours. The narcissistically personality disordered do not want us to recognise the red flags. They want us to remain confused, uncertain, and definitely guilty that perhaps we didn't try hard enough. They are allergic to clarity, honesty, transparency, yet these are the qualities we need for a loving relationship. Let's remember to discern the difference between healthy guilt and unhealthy guilt. Healthy guilt is positive and it's linked to having remorse, to being able to navigate our lives with a sense of conscience. Whereas unhealthy guilt is toxic and it's a total waste of time because it arises from a manipulator, from someone else blaming you for their feelings. So we often carry a sense of toxic guilt and shame that isn't our responsibility. We've been manipulated to feel guilty. And this guilt can be stifling. And this is a red flag of narcissistic relationships. The narcissist will never feel guilty because they do not feel remorse, because apparently there's no problem with anything that they do or say. So you are the one who has to carry all the guilt, who is meant to be at fault for everything, and they project all their issues onto you. And this is why we often feel so crushed by this sense of guilt. And that crushing sense of guilt can really control our lives in a big way. And the source of that guilt stems from that narcissistic relationship where we received that programming. And narcissists will continue to hide and deceive us and guilt trip us using the roles they play. Anybody still trying to shame or guilt a victim of abuse is not part of the solution. In fact, the wool's being pulled over their eyes and the abuser is counting on others to shame the real victims. We need to recognize the red flags sooner. Our best defense is knowledge, and educating ourselves is the biggest part of our empowerment. Narcissists will defend their behavior. Your sole responsibility is to take care of yourself now. Notice the red flags, reclaim the life they took from you. Build a life on love, not control. We are exemplifying what loving relationships are. We are breaking dysfunctional familial patterns. There is a way to transmute all we've been through, but it requires us awakening to it. That's the first step. We need to realize that yes, we have been victimized, but we also need to realize that we have survived and that we can break the victim-victimizer cycle by becoming self-aware and remembering our authentic power. We now need to focus on what we can do to rebuild our self-worth and thrive.